At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
The oven temperature scientists have done it again. It turns out that chaos that you observed when baking your cookies wasn't personal. It was physics. Food scientists have cracked the exact heat where cookie dough spreads, firms, and magically becomes right. And we're going to tell it to you here with food science professor at the University of Guelph, Maria Corradini. Maria, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
When I read an article about the perfect cookie temperature and your research, it said oven temperature scientist, which I didn't know that was a real type of scientist. Is that on your resume?
Not really. As you can imagine, no, I call myself a food scientist and engineer, and actually I really love math. That's why, I put math into works in order to make the perfect cookie because I'm also a cookaholic.
Math and cookies, two things I didn't think needed to be combined, but now that you have combined them, we get delicious results. Let's talk about modeling a cookie in the oven to try to figure out how best to bake it. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that food production is never simple and cookie baking is not an exception. Baking a cookie is not a single or simple event, but a combination of several processes that happen at once. So basically, you put your cookie dough into the oven, and now the temperature starts seeping into your cookie. The water in your cookie starts to evaporate and expands your cookie. And you have a lot of chemical reactions, because it's not just about the physics, it's also about the chemistry.
Baking soda, baking powder, all these kinds of things, the type of flour you used, how much you worked the dough, like all this stuff matters, right?
Oh, totally. And we like, who likes a white cookie? No one. Everybody likes a cookie with a little bit of browning, because that brings also the flavor.
It does.
Interestingly, that's not the only chemical reaction that happens. There are some other chemical reactions that are not as friendly as that one. And that was the motivation of our study. There is a formation of a toxicant that is called acrylamide during also the process. And we want to minimize the formation of that toxicant because we want healthy cookies. Because, cookies are super healthy, so why if we...
Wait. A toxicant in my cookies? What? Say more about that. I could eat a cookie and it could poison me?
Well, we are not going to poison you, It's just, the accumulation of a toxicant in your diet might have adverse effects in the long run.
Interesting.
And that happens with many foods. Most of the foods, they carry some natural toxicants. Your beans, your cauliflower, which is interesting. And basically, we are always trying to minimize those toxicants and the formation of those toxicants. The problem is that the reaction that gives rise to that toxicant also gives rise to the flavor and the color.
So it's sort of like the opposite of a raw potato. If you eat a raw potato, you get sick. You cook that toxicant out. With a cookie, you're baking it in?
Well, yeah, because, the Maillard reaction usually generates some toxicant compounds.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So every time that you have something that is brownish, and it tastes good, that toxicant is also being formed.
But I'm wondering, can there be a perfect temperature when all these variables, like the type of flour, the type of whether you use baking soda or baking powder, and how much sugar, and how much butter, and the chocolate, and all these factors, is there a perfect baking temperature for every kind of cookie? Like, should I not listen to the recipe that I have?
No, you should listen to the recipe, and of course, composition plays a significant role on the temperature that you should use. If you use more fat, your cookie spreads differently. And that's what we wanted to map. We wanted to map all these processes, how the temperature sinks in, how the moisture evaporates, how the reactions happen, and how they are distributed spatially and temporally in the cookie, because as you keep on going, of course that these things happen. So we wanted to basically understand all of them, transform it into mathematical expressions, and combine them all together with a method that is called multiphysics and solve it at the same time. So basically, we could figure out, the perfect temperature, the perfect structure of the cookie, the perfect level of color and flavor, but also the minimizing the formation of that toxicant, which is the ultimate goal for this.
It sounds like you're like a rocket scientist plotting the trajectory of a rocket using their shape and the propellant and their weight, but you're applying that to ovens and cookies and chemicals inside the cookies.
Interestingly, the process that we use is also used for other applications, among them rocket science. But,
It's so funny to
we're
me.
a little bit far away.
It's so funny to me, the level of academic rigor we're applying to cookies. So you do all this, you model it. What do you end up finding? What advice for home bakers can you definitively say?
Well, of course, composition plays a significant role. As the person that do the excerpt of my academic article, she made a fantastic role. Stacy Lesky, from Food and Wine, made a fantastic role in summarizing that. For example, if you use a too low temperature, of course, your cookie is not going to taste or is not going to plump as you want. But also, if you go too high, is not ideal. So the purpose was not finding exactly what was the temperature of the cookie. However, it was in order to allow the industry and, a very nerdy home baker that knows math, how to use these relationships in order to figure out what would be the perfect temperature.
I often wonder how recipe writers, like celebrity food chefs you might see on YouTube, how they choose the temperature for what they're doing. So you could really help them, people designing recipes.
Yeah, totally, because they do it by trial and error. So they bake tons of cookies in order to get the perfect temperature, the perfect combination, the perfect composition. So basically, by having these mathematical models, what it allows us is to explore a significant amount of scenarios without having to bake. So basically we explore it and we find something really interesting that, for example, shape plays a significant role. So now, for example, particularly for the chemical reactions, so one of the things that we are doing now is generating shapes that are not super conventional, and we do it, by using 3D printing. And so we create cookies with concentric circles. And actually,
3D printing is often used in like aeronautics for like airplane parts. We're using like high level tech here for cookies.
Well, there's nothing wrong to be a techie for your baking.
Now, for the home baker listening right now, if they change nothing but their temperature, my understanding is about 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius was your finding. What would they notice most about their cookie that was optimized? Would it be the texture, the spread, the chewiness, the color?
Well, one of the things that they are going to notice is the structure of the cookie. So that will allow the vapor, the water, to transform into vapor faster and actually make the cookie expand upwards instead of just spread onto the baking sheet. So if you like thin cookies, probably you want to use a lower temperature. If you want plump cookies, and with the soft center, I would go for a little bit of higher temperature and monitor, when is the end of the baking process.
Beyond cookies, what can this kind of modeling and food science teach us in the real world? Could it be used for food safety, for energy efficiency? Could it be used for industrial baking?
Well, actually, one of the things that we discover is that, for example, we can obtain the same level of cooking by using less time if we tweak the temperature. And that, of course, saves energy. So sustainably speaking, this model also plays a significant role of there. And, in terms of the formation of the toxicant, also we can minimize the formation of that toxicant and keep on eating cookies for a really long time before we get sick.
Maria, I've got to have more oven temperature cookie scientists on the show because talking to you today was a delight. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It was delightful to be here. Thanks so much. And I guess that life is what you bake.
Maria Corradini is a food science professor at the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada.
Welcome to to Survivor 50.
February 25th on Global.
We chose you to represent 25 years of the greatest adventure on television.
It's the biggest season ever.
The twist is going to open up Pandora's box. Now I see Zach Brown on Survivor.
Welcome to Survivor, Mr. Beast.
Feels a little like a high school reunion meets a massacre.
Survivor 50th season, Wednesday, February 25th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.